Hello and welcome back to another episode of the White Sox March to October. And today we're taking the first steps of moving into year 3. But first, we gotta handle the offseason. And this is gonna end up being a much more involved offseason than last year's, because back between year 1 and year 2, we didn't have many spots to fill on the team. You know, we still made some moves. We signed Clay Holmes, Tanner Scott, a couple of big bullpen arms, but there wasn't really a whole lot of thought that had to go into it. And I think it's going to be different this time around. Now I'm going to head back into the franchise mode that we hopped into to do the stat recap in last episode, just to talk you guys through just real quick what's going to be going on, what's kind of my rough plan, because you should always go into the offseason with a plan. So going into the depth chart screen here is a good way to get a quick overview of everybody that we're going to be losing to free agency. And I say losing to free agency because that's how March to October works. Everybody with that contract symbol next to their name, they may as well not be on our team right now because there's no exclusive negotiating period. There's no extensions. Once a player hits free agency, it's open season amongst all teams to sign them. So maybe our 2 top players, at least in terms of overall, are entering free agency, and that's Dylan Cease and that's Vlad. But on top of that, we also have the majority of our starting rotation going into free agency. You know, 4 out of our 5 starters. And then also both our starting and backup catcher positions. And a lot of the possibilities of what I'm thinking I can do revolves around whether or not we get Dylan Cease and Vlad back, because they're going to cost a lot of money. It's pretty much going to cost as much as it could possibly cost to get Cease and Vlad to accept a contract. But I'm also not like super worried about our money situation, because if you look at our salary right now, it's that 178.66 million. I don't know what our total budget is. I don't know how much money they'll give me to spend. But if you think about it, everybody that is going into free agency, all the money we're paying him this year, you know, we're not paying them going into next year yet. So that's all money that goes back into our budget. So 9.2 mil from Cease, you know, Vlad 22.9, just right there. That's like a year's worth of a max contract. But even somebody way down here like Eric Fetty, you know, he was getting paid 7.5 million. Technically, we still have him for 1 more year of arbitration, I guess, but I'm sure he's not going to get $7.5 million. But I also don't know exactly how to play it. Like, it all depends on who is actually free agents for sure. But when you look at our bullpen, of these 8 arms here that it shows, none of them are going into free agency. But also both Jake Eder and Jared Schuster are starting pitchers, and I kind of want to give them their chance. Like, I've talked a lot about being skeptical about how good they're going to be with the 3-pitch mix situation, but they're both young. They both have good ratings. They're both B potential. So I kind of want to plan on throwing them in the starting rotation next year and just seeing what happens, because that's kind of the thing. You have to remember how good we were last season. I mean, we went 110 and 52. So I'm not saying like our goal is to get worse by any means, but if we make some moves that don't quite pan out and we lose, even if we lose out on 10 wins, we're still a 100-win team. Like, we still are going to secure a playoff spot and probably secure the division, even if our team gets 10 to 15 wins worse even. But I guess the time for talk is over. Let's go ahead. Let's advance to the offseason, make it official, get things started, and see what we're working with. So first thing I'm actually noticing here is we have, I think, the largest offseason budget I've ever seen at 117.62 million. So we have a lot of room to work with to sign some of these guys. And we can already kind of get an idea here by clicking on the depth chart. They get rid of everybody that we just saw that had the contract symbol next to their name, because now it's moved up to 2026. So like Eloy there with the contract, that just means after this next season, he's going to be a free agent, which I thought Vaughn was going to be too, but he doesn't have the symbol there. It seems like he should be a free agent. So I don't know, maybe that'll change. And I can't move anything around, so it's kind of confusing to have Crochet in the starting rotation, because remember, this isn't real life. This was the even before opening day rosters. So Crochet was not yet a starting pitcher. He's been our closer. So first priority is to get Cease and Vlad on our list. I'm trying to bring both of them back. That's the plan. That's the goal. But I'm actually a little surprised by Vlad. He's not asking for as much as I thought he would. Dylan Cease is actually ranked the #1 free agent overall, which I'm kind of shocked by, considering Vlad's a 99 overall and he's younger. He's only 27. And because he's 27, I really have no problem with that asking price of 8 years. I mean, I doubt we make it 8 years further into a March to October from this point, but if we're just operating under the assumption that we're just playing this infinitely, which I feel like is how I should operate, I definitely don't think offering Vlad an 8 or even 9 or 10 year deal is unrealistic. I mean, he's 27. And yeah, especially with seeing how big our budget is. I mean, even if we did give Cease the 35 mil a year and Vlad the 27.5 mil a year, that's only what, just over $60 million for the next season dipping into our budget, which would leave what, like 55 or so million still to work with. But we can't do anything yet. We can't offer a contract or anything. Gotta wait a week to gauge their interests and all that sorts of stuff. I'm also worried about the last chance signing opportunities because I feel like with the higher overall free agents, a lot of them want to sign early. And when you're simming through the week, it pops up saying, hey, this is your last chance to sign Vlad or else he's signing with a different team. So you scramble together an offer. It only gives you like a 40% chance of having him accepted. And then at that point, it's just a roll of the dice. So flip of the coin if you get him. So I'm kind of prepared for the worst is what I'm trying to say. I also do want to check the rest of the free agents because I didn't look at any of this. I just added Cease and I added Vlad and I didn't look at anything else. But I'm seeing here peeking around the corner, it would be kind of funny if we did need a middle infielder to reunite Bo and Vlad on the White Sox. But especially with what Colson Montgomery's become, I'm not really thinking we need Bo. Although, dang, look at what he's become. Almost maxed out contact both ways with still solid power, and the clutch is also almost maxed out. He's been a really good player. I mean, honestly, if we didn't have so many other priorities, I might look into this more. Because thinking about it, I have said Ezekiel Duran, who's our second baseman right now, could definitely play a corner outfield spot, which would then leave second base open, and I could move Montgomery to second base if he could play there. I can't remember if he can, but there's no reason to think about that. It's not happening. It's just always kind of fun to see what the possibilities might be. I mean, probably the biggest thing that we do need is a catcher, seeing as we have none of them. I guess I did forget to mention that back when we were talking about the plan, but my hope all throughout this March to October actually was that by this year, going into year 3, Edgar Caro was going to be a little bit better and be ready to take over and be our catcher. Even if he wasn't that highly rated, if he was like a 73 or something, that would have been all I needed. But he kind of had a little bit of a slower developing year last year, so I feel like I want to give him that one more season. And if we keep him down here, I guess he'd have to get added to the 40-man, which according to this, he's still not. But if he was, we could get a fast track, get his ratings boosted a bit. But since he's not ready, I feel like we need to sign not only one catcher, but 2, so that we have a backup catcher that can keep Caro down in the minors. So that would not just mean signing 2 catchers, but that would also mean signing 2 catchers that are both at least a 70 overall, because they have to be a higher overall than Edgar Caro. Well, I guess the reason I brought that up is because Will Smith is here. I don't know if this is the best fit though, because he'll be asking for a little bit longer of a deal than I'd want to be handing out to the catcher I'm thinking of. Just still with the thought of wanting Edgar Caro to be our catcher once he's ready. Wow, and this is actually interesting as I'm just scrolling down the list here. Mike Soroka's back on the board. I remember I went back and forth whether or not I wanted to sign him back last season, and I ended up not doing it. And he didn't really have a great year. 5.10 ERA. Everything seemingly got worse compared to the year he had for me last year. I mean, the ratings still got better. They got significantly better, actually. So I don't know, something to potentially keep in mind because we are looking for pitching. I guess another thing as I come across Devin Williams here is if I am committing to Schuster and Eater being in the starting rotation, I'm gonna need another bullpen arm or 2. I mean, we probably have enough if the game gave me what I would actually want. Like if I didn't sign any new bullpen arms and they just brought back up Tukey and finally brought up Joe Barlow, that'd probably be enough talent in the bullpen for me. But I just know something would happen. They would sign some random old free agent arm that I wouldn't want. So I may as well keep that in mind too. I guess I should just, you know, pick what I want to do here for week 1 and move on. And I think the biggest priority is finding out what catcher I want. And honestly, JT here, this might be exactly what I'm looking for. I mean, he is 35. He definitely saw regression hit kind of big time actually in the last season, and his numbers dipped. But right behind him is just bringing Garver back, and obviously he was rough in the postseason, but if you look at this, he's the same age as Real Muto, but he didn't really have regression play too much of a role, at least. Definitely not to the same extent. And his regular season was solid. I mean, the average was definitely down, but 28 home runs. What was it, like a 4 something? 4.4 wins above replacement as our starting catcher? That plays. I mean, the only thing is he is a year older and regression is more likely to hit. But wow, there is really not many catcher options, because as soon as we get to Francisco Mejia here, it flips over. So that's only 6 options, and they're all at least 30 years old. That is another gripe I have with the way that March to October is structured, is when you're signing free agents, all you get to see is the top 100. So obviously there's more catchers that are free agents going into this year, but these are just all that appear as like the top 100 free agents across all positions. So don't like that. I wish we could actually have the chance to sign other ones, especially since I'm sitting here saying I want 2 of them. So like I could definitely see if I was being economical here, signing Mejia as like my main one and then wanting someone around a 71, 72 overall as my backup catcher, but it seems like that's not an option. So actually though, hovering over Mejia really intrigues me, because look at what he did. He progressed like a lot. I guess it makes sense. He would have been in his age 29 season, so he'd still be at an age to progress, especially if his potential's a B. I guess I just wasn't really expecting it, and he didn't really have a great year, so I don't know. I mean, maybe I could sign a Mejia and then sign either Garver or JT for 1 year, because I think if they're asking for 2, you can bump it down to 1. So I could sign one of these better ones for 1 year, sign Mejia for multiple, then Mejia would be the backup, whichever one of these would be the starter, and then after their 1 year deals up, Mejia could be the starter, or Caro, whichever one's ready, and then if Mejia's the starter, Caro's on the bench. If Caro's the starter, Mejia's just our backup, whichever one works. And even if we don't get one of those older ones, if Mejia's just our starting catcher, like that's kind of fine by me. I also can't lie, it's really tempting with the amount of money we have to want to lock up a Zach Gallen here, get the number 1 and number 2 free agent pitchers between him and Cease. It seems like Gallen sims really well. 275 and 294 ERA in the 2 March to October seasons we've had. Dude, I don't know. I might really look into this more, because then maybe instead of signing 2 like solid starting pitchers to fill our spots, or actually we don't need 2, do we? Because we have Montgomery, we're trying to bring Cease back, we have Eater and Schuster, so that really only leaves 1 spot, which I guess we don't need to have Eater and Schuster. We could have one or the other, but I don't know why this whole time I was thinking we needed 2 starting pitcher spots. Well, I guess that's because we do need 2 starting pitcher spots, because we don't have Cease yet. I'm just operating under the assumption that, you know, I'm trying to get him back, so he's gonna be there. And man, I know I keep butting in before I've actually done anything, but look at what I just found here. Dustin May, he's listed as a relief pitcher, so I guess that's just what he was on the roster back when we started the March to October. But look at him, he's only a 77 overall with A potential, but those are starter numbers right there. 77 stamina with 92 hits per 9. And I mean, the main thing that caught my eye is look how cheap he is. 3.9 mil a year. I might have to sign him. It almost feels stupid not to. I don't know how many of you guys watched the whole thing, but in the stat recap episode, when I was talking about Tukey, I showed you guys real quick how the game calculates overall and they weight it by position. So Tukey Toussaint was a 68 overall as a relief pitcher, but if I changed his position to a starter, he became a 78. Same attributes and everything, it's just the classification changes how good he was. So if we apply that same logic to Dustin May and just consider him a starting pitcher, would that make him an 87 overall starting pitcher? But I'm actually going to go ahead and do something here so we can move on through our first week here. Finally, I'm going to put Zach Gallen on the screen just to see what happens, gauge what kind of interest he's looking at. If it does give me a last chance with him or Cease, I'll, make a snap decision. but at least I'll have that chance to make the decision. Could you imagine having a 95 Cease and a 93 Gallen both at 30 years old at the top of this rotation? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to advance to the next week and we'll have to see what happens. I have all the positional and team needs met to give us as much interest as we can. So we're good to go. We're good to see what happens. I'll advance one day at a time. And of course, the very first day of free agency, Dylan Cease is giving us a last chance opportunity. This sucks. How is he only 44% interested to come back to? He is back-to-back World Series champs, back-to-back Cy Young Award winner. Why does he have such little interest in coming back? What did we do wrong to him? Well, I mean, I have to put together an offer. It's just since his interest was so low, I think you needed 55% to have that guaranteed thing happen. So we can't guarantee that he accepts. We could offer him 9 years and $38 million a year. That would only get him up to 61. But at this point, is that worth it? I mean, I don't really feel like in real life an 8 or even 9 year contract being offered to somebody going into their age 30 season is that bad of a move. I feel like pitchers more so than hitters make it deeper into their 30s. I mean, Scherzer, Verlander, those kind of guys come to mind. And also, like I said, I do want to treat this like I'm going to be playing all the way until the point where this would be consequential, even though, I mean, let's be real, I'm not making it another 9 years in this March to October. But I say that to justify offering him 9 years because, like I said, I don't feel like that's unrealistic. What I don't want to do, though, is bump up the money too much because like then that starts affecting the current year, and for the amount of extra interest it gives, I don't know. You know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll offer him that 9 years. I'll bump up the money. Okay, it can't be exactly 50%. I was gonna say I'll bump up the money until it's exactly 50%, and then it'll literally be a coin flip. I guess I have to decide though which side of 50 I want. I guess I'll offer him an extra 400K to get him the 51%, and then this is what we're gonna have to see happen here. Does a 9-year, $36 million a year deal get it done to bring Cease back? So doing the math, this is a 9-year, $324 million contract, which blows the all-time highest contract offered by the White Sox out of the water. And we still have a couple more of these we're planning on offering. So let's do it. Let's see what we've got here. What does Dylan Cease want to do with his future? He is not coming back. Wow, he's going to the Braves. That sucks. That hurts. I was prepared for something like that to happen, but I didn't want it to. So wow, yeah, the first major blow now of the offseason is we just lost Dylan Cease, our #1 pitcher, the back-to-back Cy Young Award winner. I guess on the positive side, we didn't just give out a 9-year, $324 million contract, and now we actually still have pretty much the entire week to sim through, so we don't know what's going to happen with Gallen or Vlad during this time. Like, they might also sign. Oh man, and looking at these stats now, it didn't even dawn on me that Dylan Cease going to Atlanta unites him with Spencer Strider. Had to be the top 2 strikeout guys, because I know Strider struck out over 300. Cease was 4 short of 400, so that is an insane 1-2 punch. I mean, that's the kind of 1-2 punch I was trying to assemble between Cease and trying to sign Gallen, and now the Braves just got it. The team we just beat in the World Series stole our guy to try and come back at us next year. That's crazy. And nothing's really happening the rest of the week. No new signings, at least not big enough to pop up there. I know they can pop up here, and they are here, and Dustin May of course signs. I mean, really? I was so close. It was I put him on my targeting list, and I started to like talk as if that was what I was going to do. And then I second guessed myself. I was like, you know what? No, I'll put Gallen on there. May will probably still be there. And then of course, Dustin May signs in the first week. I mean, that's another huge loss in this free agency already. I was so prepared to sign Dustin May. Look at what he signed for. He was asking for 5 years, and wasn't it like 3.7 mil? And 1 week in, he settles for a 1-year deal for $3 million. I would have given him the 5 years, maybe even more. I mean, we are just taking blow after blow here. This is not a good start to free agency. We have to get Zach Gallen now. Vlad's not even interested in coming back. I mean, I think got whatever percentage he was due of interest with simming a week, and he's still only at 41. We can't even offer him a contract yet.